Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I'm Billy Embody. With me is Hayden Howerton for this game recap edition as we go down a heartbreaking nightmare memory lane of SMU's 48-45 loss to Baylor on Saturday. We'll also hit coast to coast, as well as look at how our keys to the game fared this past weekend as the Mustangs fell to the Bears for the 14th straight time. We'll do that and more on this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast presented by our friends at Northwest Insurance Agency that starts right now.
When you clock in every day, there's always that chance that something can happen. You don't know when, where, or how, but accidents are inevitable. As a business owner, you don't want to be left holding the bag whether something happens to an employee or customer. General liability insurance covers everything from a slip or fall all the way down to a paper cut. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we will get you any necessary coverage that pertains to your field. So get covered under the sombrero by calling 855-88-75656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Yeah, happy Wednesday to you guys as we break down this tough one. Some of you probably already slamming your steering wheels if you're listening to us on your drive in, but that is what happens when SMU blows a 14-point lead in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. I'm Billy Embody. SMU would have loved an insurance policy on that game at the end there, and that's why you got to go to our friend Mark Villasana and Northwest Insurance Agency. 214-352-5656 or email them info@nwagencies.com to get covered. Mark would have had that game all covered, umbrella insurance, the last 5 minutes, hey, put it, take out $1 million policy on it, he'll cover it. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And SMU is now 1-1 on the season, Hayden. And as you were in the stands and I was on the field, kind of, right after that 14-point lead, I started packing up my stuff. I said, okay, all right, well, you're getting closer to that countdown of, okay, you're allowed on the field at the 6-minute mark, and it's getting close. And by the time I had gone down, Baylor had started their drive, and by that point was getting close to that big bomb of a touchdown. We'll touch on all of that, but it's crazy how quickly that game fell apart for SMU when you really go back and watch it and you think of where they were with 5 minutes to play.
Yeah, you were packing up. I was making my offense, defense, special teams grades already for this episode. I mean, it just unfortunately all fell apart. I'm as disappointed as anybody. It's now going to be 40 years since SMU has beaten Baylor. And there's only one more chance when SMU makes the return trip to Waco in 26. But I will say from a game perspective, going into it, this felt like a November football game. It had big implications while it was statewide rather than conference-wide. There was cooler weather. But Baylor traveled well as a fan base. That stadium was rocking on Saturday, really no matter who was scoring, and there was a lot of scoring. But SMU lost that game more than Baylor won that game, unfortunately. If we played that game 10 times, I think SMU beats Baylor 8 of those. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how this game went, and SMU just couldn't put Baylor away. If you let teams hang around, they're going to beat you. And that's just what happened on Saturday. But Coach Lashley talked in his Tuesday press conference about using this game and getting a scar from it, and then using this game as a learning experience. And then you see how the team gets to respond going forward. But you look at the Baltimore Ravens, they lost a Sunday Night Football thriller in overtime, and they were deserving to win all night. SMU last year on the road against Duke, we deserved to lose that game, and we ended up winning that one. But football is a game that the better team doesn't always win, and I just think that was mostly the case this Saturday.
And look, again, there was a heartbreaking loss on the field, so make sure you are winning and you are secured with your trip up to Missouri State. If you want to make last-minute plans, go to our friends at statusjet.com and check out how they can get you up to Springfield, Missouri. Would love one of you guys to go ahead and pack Dean up in your suitcase and take him with you on your Status Jet adventure. And when you do so, you get it with a round trip discount when you mention On the Pony Express. So make that last minute call. David Henry and his team can hook you up with a flight up there to Springfield to watch the Mustangs if you so desire. But if not, they've got Clemson, Wake Forest, Boston, Cal. They can do basketball trips. The basketball schedule came out today as we're recording. So get that January 10th trip to Duke on the books. All of those things and more with our friends at Status Jet. We appreciate them for hooking up our subscribers and listeners with trips of a lifetime. Hayden, I will say that game, I think it really didn't feel the same as SMU Clemson, I will say. Because that SMU run to catch Clemson and they do it in the final seconds, you're like, okay, wow, this thing's going to overtime. There's a lot of game to play. There's momentum. There's a totally different feel about it before it was ripped away. With Baylor, there was a totally different feel because Baylor had ripped it away from SMU. And you were probably even more surprised that Baylor came back than SMU had come back against Clemson. Right? Like it kind of happened over the course of a half that SMU had imposed its will on Clemson and was really racing back to that and tying the game late. We'll break a lot of this down, but for me, I still am kind of in it. Like, it's not an indictment on the program because look at how much has been accomplished, but it is so astounding that they lost that game. And quite frankly, because they didn't stick to the keys to the game.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just one of those games where you snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Rhett used that quote earlier today in his press conference as well. And when I was writing up this, I was talking about that. I mean, that has never been more true in my time covering SMU than what just happened on Saturday. But keys to the game, the first one I talked about, you couldn't waste opportunities versus an explosive, high-scoring offense like Baylor. And how I made that a measurable goal was we needed points every time we were in the red zone, and then that needed to be 50% touchdown conversions. You couldn't settle for field goals against Sawyer Robertson and come out with a win. So looking at that, we did not hit that goal. We threw a 50-50 ball that frankly just wasn't placed well, and Baylor came up with an interception. I think there was another one late in the game that was probably a scary throw as well to RJ Maryland, but we did a great job of not settling for field goals, but coming away with no points on that one red zone trip after the muffed punt was literally the difference in the game right there. Second goal, defense needed to hold up to Sawyer Robertson, and we needed to hold him to less than 300 yards. I mean, he absolutely picked us apart. Say what you will about Baylor, but 36 for 50, 440 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. So I'll talk a little bit about that more in the defensive segment, but he did exactly what they set out to do, and they slung the rock all over the field. They had almost 600 yards of offense. But third key to the game, SMU needed to take advantage of Baylor's weak passing defense. I thought Kevin needed more than 65% completion and no interceptions. And unfortunately, there's some crossover with the first key to the game with that red zone interception. So he did have a turnover. It was his second red zone interception of the season, but 72% completion, that's great on paper. He was 10 for 10 at halftime, but Baylor just made a great adjustment in the second half. And then finally, we needed to control the clock. After only 21 minutes of time of possession against East Texas A&M, I thought we needed to win the turnover battle. And look, part of that is skewed because we had 2 one-play drives, but that is why the defense was so gassed at the end of the game. I mean, Baylor's rushing touchdown in the north end zone, where the back kind of followed inside zone and he hit the cutback. I mean, they ran right by our linebackers and safeties. And I mean, it was one of those that you could just tell that they were waiting for that drive to be over. So they were just absolutely exhausted at that point. And that has to do with us not being able to just control the time of possession battle. Yeah, we put up a lot of points, but when defense is out there for 100 snaps, it is really, really tough for them to hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, I think with the time of possession, I'm absolutely there with you. I think the hard part about it was the 90+ snaps. That's where it was really, really difficult for SMU. And we'll talk about that, and you'll talk about it more, I'm sure. But like, you get to that 90+ snap. I mean, I remember you remember Chad Morris was always trying to hit 90 snaps because you're just killing teams then, tempo wise. You probably maybe got to a 100 snap game at one point in that offense. And when you're operating at that type of tempo and speed, of course, it's going to kill the defense. And I think that, look, I was surprised what the numbers actually said as far as snap counts, as far as defensive line rotation. What was astounding, and you mentioned that cutback on Bryson Washington cutting it back and just kind of waltzing in. And it kind of, Isaiah Wacobia was the one that was there, but he was kind of he was expecting him to come through the wash, and he was kind of ready to hit him. And then he hit him with the comeback, and it was just it was just bang, bang that he kind of, just rolled right by him. And that's where I was kind of like, those are the plays where when Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses are playing 100 snaps, I mean, they literally logged 100 snaps, including a couple special teams runs. That's when you're like, that's where the problem, could be. Yeah. And corners played a ton of snaps too. I think both starting corners were around that 80-90 mark, and that's kind of crazy. And Baylor, and we'll talk about TCU in a couple of weeks, but like Baylor's receivers, Cole Wilson was awesome. I think the underrated thing was Michael Trigg going out. I think that actually helped Baylor out because it took a bigger bodied target off the field, and one that maybe Ahmad Moses or Isaiah Wacobia could kind of pass back and forth. And they just ended up throwing another faster guy out there. They didn't throw a tight end out there. It actually hurt SMU, I think, in the second half when they needed stops and things like that. As they were able to, just kind of create some issues, as they were working down the field, particularly in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, I think that time of possession, obviously, like you said, a little misleading with the one play drives, but it's really hard to kind of fault that. Like SMU couldn't have played offensively that whole situation following the fumble any better. Like it couldn't have teed up the defense to get a stop on the next drive any better. Like 5 minutes of game clock. And I mean, it felt like a lifetime that they had the ball, going only 35 yards for a touchdown. So I was really surprised to see Baylor hit that type of an explosive. I wish we got Scott Simons and both coordinators, during I know Rhett's the play caller, so it doesn't really matter, but like you wish you got the coordinators just to say, hey, like what was kind of the thought process and things like that. And because it was so imperative that you couldn't let the big play happen. And that was really what sunk the ship. And you wonder if the amount of snaps that Isaiah and Jalen Davis Robinson, who were kind of over there near, I think it was Cameron that caught that 50-yard, maybe it was Prentice, but whoever caught the 50-yard bomb at the end there to kind of really get things going, if that was a product of all the snaps that the secondary played. So anyway, crazy. But before we break down, you break down the offense, do want to remind everybody that Thomas Auto Group is there for you, whether you need a new vehicle, whether you want to go with a used vehicle, or whether you want to get your vehicle serviced like I am. Next week, taking my Yukon in to get all tuned up, put some miles on it recently. It's got to get the oil change done, maybe a little tire rotation. I'm all prepared to sit there for a couple hours, maybe. I don't know how long it'll take, but it doesn't matter because their service department is outstanding. They've got food, they've got snacks, waters, sodas, whatever. And it's a really nice work environment too. I think they have a little playroom for the kids too, in case you need to be there with your little one as well. So make sure if you need to get your vehicle serviced, make sure you tell them that On the Pony Express sent you as well. So they've got a collision center as well. They can handle tons of vehicles. So make sure you reach out to Thomas Auto Group, get a quote if you need your vehicle evaluated on the collision side as well. So look, it was a collision of two really, really good offenses on Saturday. I thought both offenses played really well. Obviously, Sawyer Robertson, was cooking, with over 400 yards passing. But SMU, that offense, it was a really strong day. It was also a really weird day with some things that I don't know if I've ever seen before, quite frankly.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, these were some juggernauts on the field on Saturday. I mean, both teams putting up, 38 in regulation. I mean, that was crazy, 35. But still, you're going to win a lot of football games if you do that for SMU's offense. I don't blame SMU's offense at all for what happened on Saturday. Were there missed opportunities? For sure. But overall, it was way better than last week. I think we kind of pulled out all the stops as far as an execution standpoint. It just looked a lot cleaner. Guys were more intentional on the field on offense. But you're going to have a top 5 scoring offense in the country if you average 38 points. So, which is what we did in in that game. But we hit our 40 carries mark. Billy, we talk about it a lot. That is kind of the sweet spot for Rhett Lashley offenses. And TJ Harden's that dog. I mean, he finally had a coming out party. 19 carries, 115 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, what a performance by him. I've got a couple clips on here in my film study for you guys to see TJ and kind of what he did on Saturday, because I was very impressed by him. But on the flip side, it's been kind of strange not utilizing our tight end room. I think that's been a common theme on the board. I think Dean asked a question about it today, but RJ and Matthew Hipner had a combined 4 receptions for 41 yards. And for 2 guys who were Mackey Award preseason watch list guys, it just feels like we're not getting enough out of them. I don't know if that's from hey, we're just slowly ramping RJ back up from his knee injury, or if that's just they're taking those guys away, and that's why Romello Brinson is having the season that he's having. But it'd be nice to get those 2 back involved this weekend against Missouri State. But I thought Jalen Cooper had another great game. He's putting together a really nice freshman campaign as he caught another bomb touchdown this week. I mean, that was a beautiful throw by KJ, but Jalen Cooper named On 3 week 2 freshman standout list. So congrats to him. He's already racking up some accolades there as a true freshman. But speaking as wide receivers, I just touched on it. Romello is finally showing up the way that we thought he would. And then Ymir Knight, unfortunately, on the other hand, is not offensively. 0 catches this week. He did have 1 punt return, but it was only for like 4 yards. We just haven't hit our stride yet offensively, top to bottom. I mean, we talked about it, only 69 plays on film on Saturday. And I think the official was like 67, but if a play comes back for a hold, that doesn't count in the official play snap count. But the 2 one-play drives, like we talked about, are kind of going to dilute that number, down from 80 to 90, which is what I think Rhett Lashley is accustomed to in the ACC. They're going to huddle a little bit more. They're not doing quite as much one-word play call, hurry up tempo all the time that it was when he was my offensive coordinator. So I think that 80 to 90 is probably better than the 100, 110 that we ran. We ran 107 against Arkansas State his second year as a offensive coordinator for us. But overall, it was just kind of a missed opportunity. So I was really feeling an A for the grade for this offense until that possession that we had with 5 minutes left. I mean, I would have absolutely loved for this team to get the ball, put together 3 first downs, and kneel it out, and everybody goes home happy. But I thought we had it in the bag, but you only run 5 plays. You take 3 minutes off the clock, and then we give it right back to them, and then the rest is history. So for that, I'm knocking it down from an A to a B, just a flat B for the offense this week.
And I kind of go back and forth on this. Like, I think this is, like, I don't disagree with the overall grade. Maybe I would say B plus, and but we're nitpicking there at that point. And part of it, man, I don't know how you feel about this, but like, there were a couple things that were like out of their control in a sense. I don't know, like the ref trip, like that, like boom, that blew my mind, like that happened. And you can say what you want about why is KJ running back around, or maybe this will show him not to run around like that. That ref was like, even as KJ was set up for like a split second where he was, that ref was 3.5 yards behind him. Like, insanely poor field awareness. And I know you can't do anything about it, and you can't get stats for it. You can't do this, you can't do that. And people were wondering, why didn't he throw it away? Well, dude's like 40 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it felt like. It wasn't. It was 20, but like, he's way back there. So if he tries to throw it away and he doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage, guess what? There comes the flag for intentional grounding on top of that. And he could try to spike it into the ground at TJ Harden, but even then, you're maybe risking something. So I get what he tried to do there, and it kind of just ruined that whole drive. But I don't know. And I think for me too, and you said this on the board in your live chat, which is another reason to subscribe to On the Pony Express for $1 for your first week. But you thought the offensive line played really well. Like, I think that's something that, as this game unfolded, SMU figured out some things. And I do give credit to the staff for being quick to rip the Band-Aid off and be like, look, Derek McFall, you ended up with 1 carry for 1 yard. We did not like what we saw. You're out. TJ Harden, you're in. and they end up going TJ Hart and Jermichael Green late in the game.
Which
I think the offense. I think the offense, like if I'm looking at the players, which it's a player coach thing, man, I thought the players played a really good game. There are plays that they would want back. There were, you want KJ to put that throw like outside to Matthew Hibner, executional things that are hard to do. Like KJ got drilled on one play because I think maybe Addison Nichols was slow to kick out a guy or whatever. Like
it's on the film study.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry to spoil. But like the coaching staff, I feel like adjusted, but I don't know. There's still a little bit of that disjointedness that we saw maybe early in last season, but that was maybe due to a different quarterback whole controversy. I don't know. I just felt like they played better than they ended up kind of getting the rap for, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's only week 2, so there's some things that I see on tape where I know they're coaching it up from just a mechanical standpoint, So I think some of Kevin's throws, the first one of the game where should have been intercepted, I don't think he's really stepping into his throws, and maybe that's because he's getting ready to do some more of the quarterback run type things, or I'm seeing him kind of flush and leave the pocket versus kind of sitting in there and delivering the ball. And that's just Kevin, which is the easy one to talk about. I mean, I never want to start anything, ill-willed against Kevin. Kevin is our guy. I think we've seen it at this.
He's not the reason they lost.
100%. But I just think there are things like that. Like you said, I think this offensive line unit has been our most consistent group on offense between the first and second game. So you just look at it from an offense, and I'm sure I know what that meeting was like on Sunday of, hey, guys, we played good enough to win, but we're going to have to make this meeting tough, and we're going to have to, frankly, talk about some things that if we'd have made a field goal in overtime or at the end of regulation, this would probably be a little bit of an easier meeting. But either way, that's just kind of how these games go.
Yeah.
Defensively, which shout out Jonathan McGill. We're glad to have him part of our team now with the post-game pod. I'm sure he's going to get upset with me for some of my takes here. We're both passionate about our respective sides, but I am concerned about this defense going into the rest of the month, going into conference play. I'll spoil my grade right now. I gave him a C-. My biggest concern, which was our biggest strength last year, was our passing defense, specifically our pass rush ability. So I talked about Sawyer Robertson's stats earlier in the show, but what contributes to that? I mean, I thought we had almost zero rush in the base rush packages. So when we're only running 3 or 4 guys, after the passer, Baylor was picking it up. I mean, Sawyer had all day when it was just the base rushes. So we brought some exotics. We get home on a sack on the first drive, but that was it. Baylor made the adjustment, and then the regular second and third mediums, when you're just having to go 4-2-5 and play base, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't get home. I mean, that Baylor offensive line, I talked about it last week, 4 seniors or 4 returning starters, and then the center and right tackle are brothers. So definitely an offensive line that has a lot of chemistry in that room, and they just outplayed us on Saturday. It was as simple as that. But you pair that with the bad man coverage by our DBs, and I really have awful written on here, but I'll just say bad for now. It was automatic last week versus East Texas A&M on these little stick routes, these hitches, these stops. I mean, I don't know if we're playing too far off, afraid to get burned, but we turned pass catchers loose either way. I mean, Baylor, it seemed like they just had a ton of explosives on offense. And when they're not completing the balls, we're drawing DPIs. And we only had 5 penalties in this game. I'm not saying it was a penalty fest by any means, but it's really frustrating when a ball to a very specific side is either a DPI or a completion every time. So that is really frustrating for me to watch. I mean, I know I'm an offensive guy, but I'm sure Jonathan McGill has a million things that he could break down on what went good, what went bad, and what we can do better. I'd love to get him in the film room sometime. But during the game, I did think the silver lining was that we did a nice job stopping the run until we got gassed, like I talked about earlier. But defense had an interception that Brandon Miazono ended up dropping, which would have been an insane play if he'd had made it. That was a really hard interception to make. But either way, that could have turned the tides of the ball game. And then just 100 plays on tape, as we talked about it. Jeffrey Embaugh, one of our best run stoppers that we have, until he's 6'6" and plays at 6'3", because his legs get heavy and he stands up, and Baylor is able to double team, get under him, and push him back into the linebackers. So he's just an example. I'm not picking on him. I saw it with a couple different guys, but Baylor just pushed us around late in the game, and they ran the football well in the fourth quarter and then in overtime. And unfortunately on defense, Billy, that was the difference in the game between us getting exhausted and then the just picking us apart in the pass game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, for SMU, this is a defense that for last year, again, it's not like the NFL. It's not like, a lot of professional teams or whatever, where you're able to kind of lean on a lot of last year these days. And I think it's apparent. And I've kind of seen it now a couple different places where you're seeing a lot of change. You're seeing a lot of, you can't really rely on what you saw last year. And look, like looking back, I think this is a game. And again, I say this with the caveat of this is week 2. It's not lost on me where SMU was in week 2 last year, or week whatever it was after the BYU game, where you had a poor showing against Nevada. I mean, people were out on the defensive line against Nevada. I mean, people were ripping me on the boards, and that's fine. Like, it comes with a job. People pay to get mad at me sometimes. It's fine. But like, then you have the BYU game where they played pretty well, but it's not lost on me the development that happened with this team over the course of the season. And so I want to be very careful when I say this, not because I'm worried about, taking someone off or not or whatever, but the reality is the staff has shown that ability to develop a defense and to figure it out. And the same goes for the offense. They've changed things. You even look back at the run in the AAC. I mean, after that East Carolina game, it was a matter of, is Preston Stone the guy here? And then he turned it on and they go win the AAC. So there's a lot of development that goes on in this team and in this program that this is going to be, I think, the biggest test, because it's not like year 1 where they had a bunch of new players and the expectations are fairly low and things like that. But it's not like, you had gone out and you were in the AAC and you were, really trying to, ramp things up, and you had a huge portal haul. It's not like you're in the ACC and you're trying to make a good impression and whatever. You have your program's culture, your program's recruiting, your transfer portal haul, your latest one is kind of all in there now, and it's all established, and you have the same coaching staff back, and you have all these things. And so, whereas last year there were some key pieces added and there were some changes made that allowed them to be as good of a defense as they were last year, and the same goes to the offense stepping up, this defense, it just feels like there's less room for error right now, because in part, they don't have Alexander Kilgore. They don't have that. I mean, Zakai Barker, I think, played 15 snaps or something like that. They didn't play any other corners really, which I think is a mistake. I think there was a point where, like, you've got to maybe do something different. I think specifically Speedy Nettles, you just have some. I don't know what you could have done on the defensive line. I thought the defensive line didn't play bad as far as stopping the run. So if you're going to shut down the run and kind of be okay with that for the most part, then you stay with that rotation. You hope that somebody breaks through. Somebody, Isaiah Smith, Cam Robertson, DJ Warner. I felt like this is an alignment assignment issue for this defense last game. Like, I really do. Totally, like, go back and forth. It's totally fine to disagree with me. I was watching some of those defensive, like, kind of the slants and some of the things that they were doing. And man, I just thought the edges, like, they graded really well on PFF, and Cam Robertson and Isaiah Smith made some big plays at times, but it just didn't seem like they really had a direction on what they were trying to accomplish rushing the passer, if that makes any sense at all. Like, you might maybe know what I'm talking about, but I felt like there was just no creativity there. There was no, like, hey, let me kind of line this guy up. There was nothing that I've seen in practice from Turbo or DJ Warner. I mean, DJ Warner, I've said this, he's one of the fastest guys I've seen come off the edge for SMU in a practice. Like, the dude has speed. It's verified. So where is that, and how do you put it into the defense? That I don't know. It was frustrating to watch. I see some talent. I could see a jump, but it's still a concern right now.
So as much as I don't want to talk about last year all the time, I think people need to understand what a job Elijah Roberts did not on the field of getting the defensive line ready. From being able to help guys develop rush plans going into the game against certain offensive linemen, to where, okay, so this first third down, we're going to use this move. And then once he sees that, he's going to block you this way, and this move will dominate him. I don't see that on the field right now. I'm seeing a little more just freestyle. Let me go against what works in practice or works on the dummies that we do during individual all the time. And then, if I get home, great. But let's look at kind of the totem pole of the defensive line move. So players, Tibbs, who is one of the best development defensive line coaches in the country.
Yep.
You've got Scott Simons, who, in my opinion, he was in his bag in the first half. I mean, he was dialing them up.
Yeah, all those 4th stops, 100%.
Oh my gosh, like that was awesome. And then you have Lashley, who's established one of the best cultures in the ACC. So I agree with you in the sense of, I think this team will get better, but is it going to be quick enough? Is right. All that I'm at, because while I know Syracuse isn't what we thought Florida State was going to be opening ACC play, you still play a really good TCU team offensively, where they dominated North Carolina. And we're not really going to see anything on tape that's going to show that otherwise. They had a bye last weekend, and then they play Abilene Christian, which, sorry, Dylan, that's essentially a second bye. But I just think defensively, is there enough time to get this defensive line front ready? Because the season is 1/6 of the way over at this point. And what you said about Speedy Nettles, I would have loved to see just somebody else out there at that point. I mean, I know corners are getting tired. And like I've talked about on previous podcasts, I have more respect for DBs after playing for Jonathan Gannon with the Cardinals than I ever did before, because of the comparison that they draw to offensive linemen. But if one guy's not getting it done, there is no shame in rolling the next guy in there. If I gave up 3 sacks and a half, they're yanking me. It doesn't matter how long you've been a starter. I mean, hey man, it's not your day. Better luck next week. So,
and I think I say this, like, I don't want to say I'm a Jalen Davis Robinson defender, but I think with this, like, corner is a stopwatch position. You got to be fast, guys. Like, you got to be fast. Like AJ Davis, like when he was here, I realized why he didn't break through. He just didn't have the speed. Like, solid player, solid special teamer, whatever. That was why he didn't break through. When you look at Jalen Davis Robinson, him playing 90 snaps, like with a couple of the lumps that he took, same with Deuce Harmon, like I was just really surprised that I looked up at the snap count and it's like minimal for Speedy Nettles in particular. Like Marcellus Barnes, I know he's still developing.
Yeah. I mean,
but
I was anticipating more Marcellus, but yeah, I get it.
It's more the rotation. Like we figured it out on the safeties. Like Tyron Polley, I guess, got hurt and is out for an extended period of time right now. That's about the only safety they really trust in a game like that. And I totally get it. Isaiah Wokobia and Ahmad Moses, they shouldn't really come off the field. But you do take a hit there when you don't have a third safety that you could at least rotate in there. But at corner, I was just a little surprised.
Yeah. Unless you have a Revis Island type player, I don't think there's any reason not to rotate corners.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I could make that argument for any position besides quarterback. I mean, you're better when guys are fresher. I mean, as much as you want to build the game shape, that I'll talk about in my article that will drop later this week. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to get your best guys out there, and you're not at your best when you're 75 snaps in trying to cover a dude who runs 4.3.
Yeah.
Just come on. It's not realistic.
We're not trying to sound like I don't think we are. We're not trying to sound like emotional, guys who went to SMU covering this. It was kind of a departure from some of the things that, again, we're going to say like last year, but at corner, like Brandon Crosley had a great camp for the Pats. Like we talked him up. People love to give him grief, but I mean, you can see what they're missing with B. Cross not out there. I thought Lamadrick Spencer had a great game, so he at least covered for CJ Sanders being gone, but he was a fixer for sure. But the corner room isn't like all that different right now. So I was just surprised that there wasn't a rotation there.
I never played corner, obviously. I don't have the facilities for that. But every corner in that room thinks they're Revis Island, which is fine. That's the mentality that they all have to have. Yeah. I just think when you start getting, burnt a little bit, that mentality is going to come down. Your confidence is going to fall. And I just think it snowballs a little bit. So I'm not picking on anybody in particular. I'm not picking on how we did the rotation. It's just an observation.
Yep. The season is so young. Like, I think some of the like totally mailing it in on the defense, and this, SMU is going to have to be first to 50 all year long. Maybe a little early to say that, but I think it's safe to say that while they work out whatever issues these are, and who knows, maybe they'll be tired of 2 weeks of people wondering if they're up to the task against TCU, like Baylor's offensive line was after a week of being talked trash on after Auburn. They'll rise to the occasion and figure something out, against TCU. I don't know. That's why they play the games. That's why Arizona State can go to Starkville as a top 15 team and lose, which we'll cover in Coast to Coast, which is crazy. Like literally state homers were like picking like, 3 wins this year. But there you go. Jeff Levy gets it done week 2. So anyway, this one I really want to make sure it doesn't feel like being picked on, but special teams.
Yeah, so this is going to be hard because everybody's looking at one guy for this, but I'm going to give him a D-. I'm not going to give him an F, but 1 for 4 on field goals is horrendous. But I'm not looking or expecting Colin Rogers to make that field goal at the end of regulation. I know the wind was at his back and people can make all the reasons on why he should have. If you make a 57-yard field goal as time expires consistently, you're going to make a ton of money in the National Football League. Like, let's just be for real. That would have been the kick of a lifetime like the Clemson kid made last year. I mean, that kid could play 10 years in the league and he will never make a bigger kick than he did against SMU. So the overtime miss, yes, that one is unexcusable, but I'm just as concerned about a couple of our other units as well. So the one return for 4 yards on the punt return, not up to our standard after averaging like 27 yards on punt returns last week. Punting was fine. Wade McSparron, 43.7 punting yards, 2 inside the 20. That was a nice job by him.
Yep.
Kickoff return, I think, had some scary moments. Stone Eby, kind of a do-it-all guy for us, but he chose to fall on 2 with no return. One was at the 20, the other was at like the 13, and they kept squibbing it right to him because they were expecting it every time. And then the kickoff cover team. So my tickets are at the bottom, like where the old horseshoe was. I'm at the bottom because I like looking at the behind shot, as y'all can tell with the film study. But the kickoff cover team, there was a middle return being set up the entire game. I was waiting. Oh, yeah. I was waiting for Baylor to see it.
I could see it from the side.
Oh my gosh. There was a middle return waiting, and it would have been 6. I mean,
Cole Wilson would roll.
You could drive. I mean, I-10 I think fits between that for all my Houston people. I mean, 14 lanes.
Yeah, Baton Rouge. Yeah,
yeah. But was fully expecting a return touchdown. So all of that put together is why I'm giving him a D-, not just because of the Colin Rogers misses. Now, there is a kicking competition. Rhett Lashley talked about that today. There's going to be a competition going into the year. I had heard there was a competition in training camp. It is not really just because of the Baylor game. It is because of what they've seen all offseason.
Yep. And look, like we mentioned it on the board, somebody asked me and I wasn't afraid to say it, like in camp. It wasn't talked about because we just don't see. This year in fall camp, we weren't allowed in very much. So like you try not to, hammer things that you're maybe not supposed to see or whatever, just so you can maybe get invited back next year. But one thing that was conveyed to us was, or to me and Dean or Hayden too, like the kicking situation was a competition in camp. Yep. And look, like Colin Rogers has been an incredible weapon for SMU. Like the ability to kick 50-yard field goals has been crazy. And when you maybe don't show that, then you're like, okay, well, consistently under 45, we've got to be good then. Yep. And SMU feels like they have something in Sam Keltner. Like the kicker of the future is on the roster at the very least. Yep. You know, this is this is Colin's last season if he plays everything out or whatever and ends up being the starting kicker again. But it's a weird dynamic. It just shows like, I mean, the world of kickers, man. You don't want to peak too early almost, but and I'm not saying Colin did, but the coverage was much more concerning, I would say, because you could kind of see it. They were close. I think that the Stone Eby thing should not have happened. I'm glad he handled it the way he did, in a sense, because you don't want those guys to be like, I don't want to touch it, get away, and then all of a sudden it's a turnover. So like safe play there, go for it. But your return men got to be like up there, kind of like, doing something. Like, what's the worst that happened? The ball goes over your head and you touch back. I mean, there's another one. Chris Johnson got really lucky. Like that one stopped at the 1 and then like dribbled out of bounds with like some Bears like within 10 yards. Like it was
that
really
one reminded me of the Tulsa 2019 touchdown, and I still don't think it's a touchdown, where they dive on it on the 1, the pile kind of rolls into the end zone, and however, I think it's the first ever kickoff touchdown.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was possible, but yeah, that was a kick just like that.
Yep. All right, special teams. I will say I'm very impressed with Wade McSparron, and I think Yamir Knight. I still think he's going to break a punt return. Like I know things aren't going his way offensively right now. He got overthrown on 1, but I think he might get a cut. If he gets a couple of opportunities, he's going to break one. He already did break one. Jalen Davis Robinson held somebody like 25 yards away.
Yeah, and he's got vision. So I think the 1 punt return, it was a hard punt to field. I mean, he's running all the way over to his right. He makes a really great catch, because that was one that if it bounced, it was going to be a really great punt. It was going to be down inside probably the 10.
I'd be interested to see. And maybe this is just my eyes. Somebody in the comments can let us know. I don't think SMU's lost many yards on punts this year. Like I think they've fielded all of them, right? Maybe.
We have fielded all of them. Either fair catch.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, that is the grade book, and now it's time for the film room. But before that, we get to game time, and game time is your one-stop shop for tickets. And Hayden, I tell you what, people who are going up to Missouri State, look, you can get the cheap tickets for that one. That one's easy peasy, like not a big deal to go up to Missouri State, get a ticket. It's going to be a great environment up there in Springfield for those of you who are going. But if you want to find the zone deals or the favorite section or get a view of the seat or use that lowest price guarantee to the best of your ability, make sure you look up Game Time for that SMU TCU game in Fort Worth. Fees are included. And of course, with that lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference if you find a ticket for less somewhere else with that same section ticket kind of deal. And, the thing about it is you can take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ON, the number 3 for $20 off. That's ON3. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And also do want to shout out Dave Campbell's, all of our people listening on the Dave Campbell's network. And we've been rocking with them for the last couple of years right now. Some of you have been catching us on their feed, which is awesome. But if it's happening in college football in Texas, we're talking about it on Dave Campbell's. So we appreciate them partnering up with us and giving us a little bit more of a platform as well. Everybody knows Dave Campbell's, legends over there for covering the state of Texas. So Hayden, it's time for your film room. Really excited about this and not so excited at the same time, but it is one of the best parts of this show as we recap the week prior. So any last words before we go to it?
Yeah. So obviously the game didn't turn out great, but what I think you guys will see on tape is there's still a lot of things to build on. I think offensively, 4 of the 5 plays that I put on there are really good things. There's one that we need to make an adjustment. Defense, I think I put 2 pretty good plays on there. One from a scheme, one from a just effort and technique perspective, and then even add a little special teams action for you guys. And no, it is not field goal, which is the only special teams unit I played on past high school, but do want to talk a little bit about some of the things I learned in my time in the NFL, because guys like Mike Vrabel were special teams, fanatics. So learned a lot about it in that. But yeah, I love bringing this to you guys. I'm really grateful for the staff for allowing me to get this film and be able to share it with you guys. So without further ado, here's my film room review. Okay, first play of the game here for this offense. So we took the ball, and this is the first play out from scrimmage. So this here is a gap scheme protection at the end of the day. So we are adding a puller as a wrinkle. So it looks a little bit more like counter than it would just your typical full line slide. So Addison Nichols, 63, is going to pull around to the left, but really everybody else has the gap to their right. So PJ has the D end to anything outside. Josh Bates has the right A gap. Logan has the left A gap. Savion has his B gap. And then the running back is going to fill outside of Addison if need be. So on the snap, they do have some movement as they're bringing outside pressure here. So Josh Bates, the nose guard in front of him, crosses his face. Luckily for us, Logan's right there. PJ does a good job getting enough on this guy while Josh is handing him off to Logan here to be able to wash him down. He gets back out and gets just enough of that end man there for Kevin to get this ball off. I think it's no secret that this ball should have been picked. Everybody knows it. Everybody's kind of seen the result by now, even though it is an incredible play. But just watch Kevin's footwork. I'm not a quarterback coach, but it does look like he just steps a little bit to the side here versus stepping into this throw. But you know what? It's not always how you drew it up. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and we'll take the result for sure here as we get 6 points to start the game. I love all the pin pulling action that we're doing lately. This play is going to look a lot like the one from last week against East Texas A&M. We have a very similar front. Maybe the linebackers are a little more plussed over, gives us some bad leverage, but that's why we're going to get into some of this pin and pull stuff to recreate leverage. So on the snap, same as last week, the right guard and the tight end are going to block down on the guys on their inside, and that creates leverage where PJ and Josh Bates can get back outside as we recreate those angles. So love watching PJ in space, man. Just look how he closes the gap here on 25, and watch the finish, man, all the way to the sideline. Bam! I love that, man. That's what an NFL player at tackle looks like. That's some Trent Williams stuff. Love seeing that. But Josh Bates does a great job as well, pulling around. Gets on the right guy for sure. Logan, I think, actually is, quote, wrong, but it's not bad because he's able to really be +1. If he went and kept going for 36 here, we would have an extra hat. But overall, we're on the right guys, and this is a good run. I wanted to really highlight a couple different parts of this play here. So I wanted to first highlight the protection, and then second, highlight the pitch and catch. So here on the protection, this is a dealer's choice by the center. You can call this a 3 down. You can call this a 4 down. You're not really wrong either way. If you call this a 3 down, what you have to do is you have to fan this on the left side. So I think that's what they do here. So Logan and Savion are really fanning to these two guys on their outside, as you see here. And then on the right side here, this is a right side slide in that scenario. So Josh, Addison, PJ, they're really 3 for 3 here, plus anything that could come out on the outside. Not saying that we're going to block 3 for 4. That's just who we're responsible for. And then TJ Harden here on the backside is responsible for this backside linebacker, 31. I think he does a really nice job of filling here. Sticks his nose in there. You don't see that from every running back, but we do a good job of kind of passing this off. Everybody's looking for work. And then Kevin here, he's trying to go to Matthew Hipner, but this nickel here is playing outside leverage. So on this out route, he has to wait an extra second, but Hibby does a great job playing the sideline, getting the toe tap here, and then getting the first down. Okay, so always got to talk a little bit about the bad. So not every game is perfect. This is certainly one of those plays where I think in the stands a lot of people were like, what are we doing? But Baylor just had a great scheme here. So we're trying to go back to some of this pull scheme where PJ is now the puller instead of the guard, which is fine. You know, I've seen this scheme many times that happened to have success. But the hard part comes in is when they're bringing 2 off the edge to the same side that the puller is coming from.
really everybody would have to keep working through this here. So Logan would have to work through all the way to the backside guard. Addison would have to work through to the very widest, and Josh Bates would have to work through here to this D end who's really outside PJ. That would be the only way to pick this up. They just got us by scheme here, as we'll see. They bring 2 off the edge. You would love Addison to just get a little bit more of this guy because Kevin does get his bell rung here. I mean, even his mouthpiece falls out, as you can see right there. Can't take those hits, but at the end of the day, this is just a schematic thing where you go, all right, 1-0 them. So the last play was the bad, but now for the really good. So when you're facing pressure, you're wanting to run inside zone away from pressure, and you want to run outside zone into pressure. And here's why. So we're going to have an inside zone play here to the left. Baylor's in a 3-down front with an overhang on the right side. 28 is walking up outside this end man on the line of scrimmage. That's tipping us off that there might be pressure here. So on the snap, they're all going to try to go inside one gap. The nose guard is going to fly over. So by scheme here, we should be in a 2 mics middle. So the left guard, left tackle should be working up for 36. Center and right guard should be working to 31. And then Matthew Hibner will be out. But on the snap, the way that this plays out with this split flow action by Stone Eby, as he goes past the center, watch how the linebackers rock. And this is why you run these split zone actions. So 36 comes right to Josh Bates, exactly where you want him. And TJ Harden does a great job of letting this develop, and he hits the hole with speed, man. Nobody is going to make an arm tackle when he hits the hole just like this. And he's out the gate and off to the races. Now for the defense. I know people give the defense a hard time for their performance on Saturday, but they actually showed some really cool stuff on tape, as we're about to see here. So we have our typical base defense here. So 4-2-5. Miyazono's over the center. We're going to bump out the will. But on the snap here, we are going to run an internal game to try to generate some pressure. And I thought this was a nice job on the game. So 93 does a good job of occupying the center while Shaq really attacks that hip and then finally gets around. And then on the ends, so they're both in a man rush. I think Turbo does a good job when he gets to quarterback depth of working back underneath and really is able to get there on the hit. And then you have Cam continuing to work this tackle over here on our right, offense's left. But what I'm really proud of is this open field tackle by Isaiah Wacobia here. So this is really hard to do. This is why you get paid the big bucks in the NFL, is to make tackles in space against guys like this. Watch him run over here, break down. His feet stay under him. He stays under control. He's not jumping off the diving board, as Mike Vrabel used to call it. He just makes a textbook open field tackle, but he's also given his troops time to run over there and help him out. I mean, look how many blue jerseys that is compared to the one white Baylor jersey. Really nice job by the defense. So I wanted to talk about our 1 sack that we got for the ball game the other day. So this is going to be a 4th and 9 situation on Baylor's opening drive. This was the second 4th down that they went for it here. But we're showing a 7-up look across the line here. So you've got 3 to the left of the nose and 3 to the right. But looking at the picture here, we're looking at the safety in the middle of the field. He is really stacked over Ahmad Moses, who is playing press here on this receiver. So Sawyer Robertson should have been tipped off that Ahmad could come here, but he's doing a good job not looking at the ball. He's looking straight ahead. He's really selling this fake here. But on the snap, like we talked about last week, Baylor has to take the inside guy on this rush, and then Ahmad just does a good job of running hard and through the quarterback here. So we do a good job on the back end of keeping it covered. They're not ready to get rid of the ball, and then we get home for our sack. So really nice job by Ahmad there. So I won't talk about special teams very much on this segment, but I will talk about it when we could use the rules to our advantage here. So Mike Vrabel used to always say, and this is the second time I'm talking about Vrabes, he used to say bad teams don't know the rules, good teams know the rules, great teams use the rules to their advantage. So here's an opportunity that I think we could have just used the rules to our advantage. It worked out anyway, but just something going forward for people to know. But this ball is kicked really inside the 5, and Chris Johnson Jr. does a nice job of letting it roll out of bounds. But this was one that he was a little close to it. I thought he was really thinking about picking it up, especially right there. But he does let it roll out of bounds, which is nice. A hack to the rules here where you can really use the rules. If Chris Johnson stood out of bounds here and picked the ball up inbounds, so 1 foot out of bounds, 1 foot inbounds, and he picks this thing up inbounds, that is a penalty. It is an out of bounds kick, and we will start the drive at the 35. So he did the right thing. The ball went out of bounds anyway. We still got the ball at the 35, but it's just something I was really thinking he was about to do. But either way, ended up as a net positive result for us. Just something in the future that I would probably coach on.
All right, Hayden, great work on that as always. And I tell you what, if you guys really, really want to get in the mood to get in the film room, it's kind of a romantic type of thing. You know, you, yourself, the clicker, you know, right, Hayden? Well, guess what? The romantic restaurant to do this at is at our friends at Mignon. Former SMU player Nick Natour and his family have operated this Plano gem for decades. And I mean, dinner 7 days a week, brunch on Sundays. Mignon has this incredible menu every single night that is sure to impress, whether it be a date, whether it be, of course, your significant other, your wife, your family, work friends. You can do private dinners there. And of course, the brunch on Sunday is a crowd pleaser as well. They're open every single day at 4:30. And trust me, you want to get to the bar, have a glass of champagne or maybe a cocktail, and then get ready to be seated and have one of the best meals in the entire DFW Metroplex. Right there, they've got the little lake right there, right off of Preston Road in Plano. And so visit with our friends at Mignon and enjoy one of my favorite meals in the city of Dallas, and tell them that On the Pony Express sent you. They'll stop by. They'll spend some time with you. It's that family restaurant vibe that you would expect. So we appreciate Mignon for supporting us at the On the Pony Express podcast. Dude, we're going to have to go there. It's like Bill says on the pod. You know, if you win, you deserve it. If you lose, you need it. And depending on how that TCU game goes, might need to be a big blowout party kind of had at Mignon or whatever in celebration or defeat, because in 2 weeks, it's going to be a massive, massive game for SMU, but they do have one this week as well.
So I remember my freshman year driving on the bus over to Fort Worth, and Nick Natour's father was like hanging out the window with all his SMU gear on. So it's really nice family. We're really grateful for them. Kara listens to me talk enough at home, so she doesn't listen to this episode, but I'll take her there for our anniversary this year.
Ooh, there you go. Good call. See, I met Michelle on Valentine's Day, and so we actually went there as our last Valentine's Day of 2. And normally we would rather do the Valentine's Day portion like just kind of at home or hang out or whatever, and just like not do prefix menu and all that stuff. But man, I tell you what, they just killed it. So even the prefix menus, you know, some people that can turn people off. We kind of forgot about that and just loved every second of our experience there. That now approaching 2 years ago. Wow. Whew. Time to go coast to coast, Hayden. College football was kind of sleepy until it wasn't. Shout out to Florida Gators for that. My brother-in-law just absolutely not listening to this podcast, but pretty much in an eternal state of beating his fists against the steering wheel these days, living down there. So let's get to it.
Yeah, man. I think people looked at this weekend and were like, maybe this is the fall wedding weekend. But Friday night, Preston Stone throws 3 touchdown passes for the Northwestern Wildcats in a 42-7 rout of West Illinois. So it was really nice to see Preston bounce back after a tough week 1 showing versus Tulane. We're always fans of his still over here after the career that he had at SMU. But moving on to Saturday, Mike Gundy suffers the worst loss as Oklahoma State head coach in a 69-3 blowout at the Oregon Ducks. So Oklahoma State passing game is horrendous. I mean, they've averaged 116 yards per game through the air, and unfortunately, I said this before the season, I think Mike Gundy is gone at the end of the year. So I think his seat is red hot going into conference play here in a couple weeks. But before that, I got them on upset alert against Tulsa this coming weekend, a little interstate action. So
I think I'll be interested to see if they got rid of him, but I will say they have looked so badly, like so poorly in that game, like it reminded me of so when EA Sports, had a college football game way back in the day, like I had no idea what Elon was, but like we would play, like whenever your friend is really bad at the video game, you would give them, at the time it was probably like USC, probably like Sam Bradford playing whatever for OU. And then you would play with Elon and you'd be like, come on, dude, it's Elon. Like that is what Oregon made Oklahoma State look like is Elon.
Yeah, that was
truthfully.
That was tough. I mean, and Oklahoma State went to the Big 12 playoff, or went to the Big 12 championship in 2021. They were 1 inch from a playoff berth.
Dave Aranda might not even be there if not for that.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, just how far they've fallen since then. I mean, but they won the last Bedlam. But unfortunately, I think that's going to be I think this is going to be it for Gundy. So end of an era for sure. I'm a man, I'm 40 is one of my favorite moments of all time.
So good.
So, but Arch Manning, bounce back day with 5 total touchdowns for the Texas Longhorns and a 38-7 win over San Jose State. But that's nothing surprising to me. Arch has been very good versus lesser competition. But I'm going to need to see that level of performance against an SEC opponent kind of before I jump back on this Arch Manning train. I'm sure some people are looking at it now and being like, oh, well, it was because it was Ohio State. And I think the Buckeyes are exceptional on defense. But when you look at Arch's track record, and it's been against Colorado State, San Jose State, I think they play UTEP this weekend. There's just not a lot to really hang your hat on at a high performance level.
Former SMU assistant Derek Odom, defensive coordinator over there at San Jose State. He's actually doing a good job. Colney Castle also on staff for San Jose State. Let's see. I was just checking to make sure he was still there, but did Joe Palchik make a stop at SMU? I think there might have been a Bob Palchik. Let's see. No, must have been a different one. But anyway, yeah, just I saw that Derek was still there. He was always such a great guy at SMU when he was here. Like very, very happy for him that he's doing well. He was getting like a lot of like G5 coordinator hype train buzz going on. And actually, I mean, like Texas fans were still upset with Arch, so it sounds like he did a good job.
Yeah, for sure. But Texas's first SEC game is not until October 4th against the Florida Gators. But speaking of the Gators, and Billy, you were already kind of hinting at this. Florida 16, USF 18. I said last week USF is my Group of 5 representative for the college football playoff. I think they're my favorite going into the year. They definitely were after they beat Boise. And when you look at their track record so far, if you would have picked a Notre Dame or some big name school to dominate a number 25 at home and then go upset a number 13 on the road, I think they'd be top 10 in the country. But because it's the logo, I think USF comes in at 18 this week. But huge upset in the Swamp. I mean, this is Florida's first loss as part of the hardest schedule in the nation. They're staring down the bazooka right now. I mean, they face number 3 LSU in Baton Rouge next week, and it's going to be part of a stretch where they play 8 ranked teams in their next 10 games. So just an absolute gauntlet for the Florida Gators coming up here. So USF is the 4th team to ever enter the season unranked and then start the year 2-0 against ranked teams. So great job to them down there in Tampa.
Yeah, their staff's doing a great job. Alex Golsh, that whole crew down there, like they're a big time staff. I mean, they could be there a while. They could be gone in a year. I mean, truthfully, I mean, he's doing some really, really good work. I got to spend some time with him at AAC Media Days. I stopped by there last year just to kind of, because it was in town and see like people like Trailer and stuff like that. And Golsh was like really, really impressive. Like him standing next to Trent Dilfer and Dilfer talking and Golsh talking, I was like, okay, one's going to be successful, one's not.
Yeah. I mean, love the American. That's where I played all 5 of my years. But it's just such a stepping stone of a conference.
Yeah.
I mean, you either do really well and you get a big job, or there is no you're there for 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, no, just especially now. I mean, you could. I mean, if you really wanted to, but like, I mean, the only hope for that was Willie Fritz.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it.
And I like Willie.
Yeah.
My dad played for Willie. I said when I went to conference media days, they asked me who was your favorite coach or who would you like to play for if it wasn't your own. I said it was Willie Fritz. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I'm a big fan of his.
Once the whole changes happen, though, it's just crazy now. You got to get out. So
Yeah, for sure. I don't like him as much now that he's at Houston, but just for the record.
Well, maybe he'll play SMU, unlike some other team in the state.
Yeah, maybe he'd have the balls to.
Yeah.
Mississippi State upsetting number 12 ASU in Starkville. Biggest win in 30 years for Mississippi State. So they were looking like Arizona State was going to take this one back after taking a 20-17 lead after they trailed 17-3 at the half. But Sun Devils go on a 17-play, 95-yard beauty of a drive that took 9 minutes off the clock, but it did just end with a field goal. So Mississippi State gets the ball back. They throw a 58-yard touchdown pass with 30 seconds left in the game, and just a huge win. Like I said, first non-conference home win versus a ranked opponent in 30 years. So they were going crazy in Starkville. I mean, Billy, you're the one that covers Mississippi, man. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are, definitely feeling themselves right now. They did try to get Rhett Ashley, and I can tell you that was not successful. That was quickly shot down by a source that he'd be involved there. But I like Lebby. Lebby's I think he's a really bright offensive mind. I don't know. They have like zero resources. I mean, they really they have to play. Like, I know they just beat Arizona State, but like if I had to do a blood bank guarantee for SMU to beat a SEC team, it would be Mississippi State.
Really, over Vandy.
Yes.
I know. Okay, I know Vandy just went and whooped Virginia Tech or whoever.
Yeah. Vandy's like really well coached, and they kind of do the right things, like trying to figure out how to get the best guys in there for their program.
Okay,
but yeah, absolutely. Like Mississippi State is like they are trying to hit on like diamonds in the rough all over the place. So
I mean, did you see?
And Blake Shapen's only back because he got injured game 1 or 2 or something. Otherwise they would not have a quarterback right now.
Did you see that video Arizona State posted with their poor trainer with the 2 cowbells? That was all.
The entire week, right?
Yeah. I will say the cowbell tradition is sweet. I mean, that is awesome. But
I can't comment on that. I do think Kenny Dillingham, I like his story that he's coaching his hometown and all that stuff. I think he's pretty cheesy.
When he was talking during training camp about, somebody's got to go 3-9 or 5-7, I was like, okay,
yeah,
whatever. But
border
war, man, this is why regional college football rivalries are awesome. So Missouri versus Kansas, Bo Perbula looked the part, man. I mean, Missouri Tigers fell down early, 21-6, and then he roared back 30 for 39, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, Kansas was outgained by over 200 yards at the half, and it was still 21-all. Missouri pulled away late. They had a nice 63-yard rushing touchdown up the left sideline. That just kind of put the game out of reach. But this was the first border war in over a decade. They agreed to a 4-game series. I cannot wait to see this game over the next few years, as it was hot, man. It was a bitter rivalry from the stands to the on the field. I mean, if you know the history behind the game, there's bad blood, literally, between these two states.
Last thing, I do appreciate former fellow Auburn GA Eli Drinkwitz, basically bending the rules and getting a officiating crew kicked off their job. And he was like, yeah, we knew exactly what we were doing. I was like, what? So if you don't know, I didn't watch the game, but it was Missouri had its extra point blocked, and Missouri was going to kick off, and instead there was a Missouri foul that was going to be assessed on the kickoff, and basically they just decided to go with a free kick, a punt, because they had done some research and they had found that it was really hard to field punts, and so they just did it, and it's they snuck it by them, and it actually kind of played out, I guess, or something. I think Kansas still fielded it, but anyway, just purposefully not playing by the rules.
No, come on. Great teams use the rules to their advantage. That's what.
Well, right. But the officials literally didn't pick up on it. Maybe a late hit on a certain quarterback late in the game against Baylor for SMU. But
That was horrible.
That when they huddled, like those type of calls. All right, we're going back to SMU Baylor for a second.
Back to the game. All right.
and then we're out because an hour and people are definitely,
people are getting in trouble at work now.
Yeah, there's like a couple people listening right now. So SMU Baylor, that last drive before regulation, Kevin steps up in the pocket, runs. You're like, wow, where was this a lot of the game? Because, outside designed runs, he didn't tuck it that many times, like maybe once or twice. Like just eye test there on that. But he steps up, runs, slides, gets down, and a Baylor player kind of came in right at the end. And, it's pretty bang, but like, man, that's pretty. I thought it was late. I just thought it was late.
I don't think it was bang, dude.
Okay.
Kevin was lateral and he speared him. Hell no.
It wasn't targeting, though. It wasn't targeting by the book, though, right?
By the book, no. But at worst, it should have been
late hit.
Late hit on sports, whatever.
Those penalties, flags literally come in flying. Flags literally come in flying from all over the place. There's like 3 of them. You should have to huddle and within like a reasonable amount of time announce the call. Or if you're picking it up. Because what they were able to do, in my opinion, and this was the game where you couldn't hear their, discussion or whatever. But in my opinion, they said, look, we'll do this easy. We'll call it targeting only on the field. And then that way we can review it. And if it's not targeting, then we're cool and no blood on our hands. If you got it, like it's a late hit and it's targeting, or it's a late hit and then the booth buzzes down and say, hey, we're going to take another look for targeting, which the booth can do. Yeah. You've got to be able to, but once they spent 10 minutes discussing it, that takes all of the, what was the call out of it.
And it killed our momentum. How many times did the refs huddle and talk for 5 minutes, and then basically nothing happened? That I think if there are 3 or more flags and you wave all of them off, you're out of there, man. That was insane.
Yeah. So that.
Whatever.
All right. Rapid fire.
Hitters,
take it away.
Get out of here. Lots of great games. Iowa loses to Iowa State by 3. Army upsets K-State in Manhattan by 3. I think there might be a curse of playing in Ireland.
There's got to be a curse.
Texas State beats UTSA in a rivalry game at the Alamo Dome. Northern Colorado cheated out of an upset win, another game that the referees just said it's all about me. And then Oklahoma's John Mateer, he's legit. Sooners beat Michigan Wolverines in the primetime slot. He outduels 5-star quarterback. So
good time, man. This was a good pod. So everyone, we will be back later this week for our preview pod of SMU at Missouri State. We'll be refreshed. We'll be, what is it? One snap and clear, on
one snap at a time, baby.
We've taken our one swing of one day. So we're on to the next day. And it's time to move forward to Missouri State for you guys. So we'll do all that and more. Sorry for the length on this podcast, but hey, look, you'll have 3.5 full days to listen to it. So we hope you guys enjoy it. We enjoy putting together this pod. Hayden does an incredible job on the rundown and, of course, the film breakdown. So we appreciate all you guys who listen and stay with us on it. Let us know if there's anything else we can improve on with the pod. But for all of our sponsors, Northwest Insurance Agency, Thomas Auto Group, Status Jet, Game Time, Mignon, and, of course, our friends at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. We appreciate all of you guys for listening to myself, Billy Embody, and Hayden Howerton, rambling on about SMU football and, of course, coast to coast. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to OnThePonyExpress.com for more coverage.